Right off the bat, I must say that a lot of you won't agree with some of the outcomes of this video. I was trying to see how I could make this video favor both parties, but it's currently 2 AM and I have to go to the DMV in 6 hours. So I'm just gonna say what I think will happen. If you're not happy with the result, leave it in the mail. Anyway, as the title suggests, we're going to be putting the largest and most powerful T-Rex we've ever found against the bioengineered megaceropods of the Jurassic franchise. Could Goliath survive on either of the main islands in the franchise, or would he be put down the moment one of these crash outs find him? Well, we're going to try and figure this out. I know a lot of you are already going to say Goliath because of the animated video Goji Center made with Sue absolutely destroying Rexy, but I'm not going to use that. Look, I love most of Goji Center's videos, but this really wasn't it. I mean, Rexy didn't get a single hit in. It's like Sue was fighting a disabled Rex that was just learning how to walk. I mean, not a single hit, not one. But I'm not saying Goliath won't win, because there are some factors that could drastically change the outcome of these fights. By the way, if you folks know any good analog horror videos that revolve around animals, or any to be honest, then leave it in the comments. And while you're at it, consider hitting that subscribe button so your boy can keep these uploads coming. There's also a Discord link in the description too. There's a bunch of different events in there. You could enter art competitions or just talk about anything related to prehistory with me and your fellow channel members. Just don't do too much weird shit though in there, please. I mean, we have a few oddballs in there, but nothing you should be worried about. If anything, it makes the server better, and hey, what server doesn't have the odd one out of the bunch? With the self-promotion over, let's get right into the video. We're going to be looking at Goliath first, discussing his stats from his strengths all the way to his weaknesses. The first thing we're going to be digging into is his size. As a disclaimer, some of these sizes I'm giving could change a few days or even a few seconds after I upload this. Megaceropod sizes change more than you brush your teeth. Goliath's femur is a massive one. It's bigger than every Rex so far in both height and width. Sue, Scotty, and even the previous champion for the largest T-Rex, Edie Cope, is smaller than Goliath. The more conservative estimates place Goliath a little over 10 tons, while the largest give him a weight of almost 13. This is twice the weight of the average African elephant and as big as the largest orcas ever documented. For this video, I'm going to be using his largest size estimate placed on him at the moment, around 12.7 tons. For those saying that's cheating, it's really not. I'm trying to make this outcome as fair as possible in the fight. Because I'll go ahead and say it, a 9-ton Sue would have a lot more trouble with Rexy than a lot of people believe, and she would more than likely lose to most of the other megaceropods in the franchise. You gotta remember, these are real animals. Some people nerf the feats of movie animals just to say that the real one wins. The Indominus Rex ripped a zipline tower down, and the Spinosaurus got hit with a plane and took repeated bites from a T-Rex and wasn't really affected by it. And no, the franchise's Rexes don't have weak bites. It's stated canonically that they can crush a bus, so yeah. I'm not favoring the franchise over reality, but I just wanted to let you guys know where I stand. As much as I love the real life variants and part of me thinks they are superior in every way, I also have to factor in the abilities of the movie versions that won't be possible in reality. And one more thing, for a few videos where I mentioned the T-Rex, some people were saying I was wrong and that the average T-Rex size was 10 tons. Look, I know it's the largest land carnivore ever, but the average for the species is definitely not 10 tons. Whatever you're smoking, ask the dealer for a refund. Anyway, back to Goliath. He's off to a good start. He outclasses every megaceropod in the franchise by almost 2 tons. He may be a chunky boy, but that doesn't mean he's just a stiff blob of flesh. Despite T-Rexes being more girthy than any other megaceropod, they have possibly the best agility and maneuverability of any. A lower center of gravity and sure footing allows this animal to dodge and weave when necessary, and even counter in some cases. He's nimble, yes, but unfortunately he won't be the fastest. Smaller Rexes below 10 tons have a max speed of around 30 miles per hour, so something the size of Goliath couldn't reach a top speed of more than 10 miles per hour. As a matter of fact, he couldn't even run. The largest theropods in prehistory did something like a fast walk, because if they tried to run in the traditional sense and both of their feet were in the air at the same time, their hips would shatter under the weight. He may not be the fastest, but he definitely is the wisest. With his size comes decades of experience. He may not just be the biggest Rex we've ever found, but also the oldest. During all of this time, he would have gone through more battles than any of the megaceropods in the Jurassic franchise combined. He would have had to fight all the T-Rexes throughout the course of his life, for food, territory, and mating rights. Battles between his species was unavoidable, not to mention the prey he'd have to hunt. Triceratops was a very dangerous animal in real life. Nothing like the ones in Jurassic World that let you just come up and pet them. This is real life. Go up to a wild hippo, rhinoceros, moose, or any other large herbivore. I can assure you they'll let you experience the use of their weapons firsthand. Living in the same place as the deadliest carnivore to ever exist would make them as tough as nails and very aggressive. Some specimens of Triceratops can even get larger than the T-Rex itself, not to mention other large prey items like Edmontosaurus or even subadult Alamosaurus would be a challenge. No matter how much main media depicts these animals as fodder, I could assure you the Hadrosaurus could fight back. So for Goliath to live through all of that for decades speaks volumes. He was one of the few members of his species able to survive long enough to reach that size. But this is where we start getting to possible disadvantages. So I'll be honest, I'm not 100% certain on this section, so feel free to call me out when I'm saying something wrong, or if I do. Most articles and reports out there say that a T-Rex had a max lifespan of 30 years, while some say they could live up to 50. But I'll be using what's widely accepted and say around 30 is the limit, with a few individuals breaking the age point. Specimens like Sue or Scotty would have died when they are around 26 or 28, but Goliath could have possibly been around 35. It's the same with all species including humans. The average life expectancy is 72, which seems oddly high, but I won't argue with the numbers. Yet there are a good amount of us who are 85 years or older. The animal kingdom also has its exceptions. Tigers have an average life expectancy of 12 to 15 years, but Wagdo, who's one of the largest Bengal tigers ever documented, was around 19 when he died. And there's another legend, Scarface, who was 14 when he died. He lived 5 years longer than the average male lion, so Cole being over 30 wouldn't be something outrageous to say. His reaction and striking speed would be fast as a younger Tyrannosaurus, but when it comes to maneuverability, he would be slower than the other adult Rexes that are younger. Sudden lunges or darts forward could possibly even injure him if he places his foot wrong. Also, I'm now realizing this, but I've been saying he all of this time, and I don't know if Goliath is confirmed to be a male or a female. But I've come this far, so I'll just go with it. His quick reactions may not be as they were when he was younger, but his bite force sure is a lot better. The average Rex bite force is around 40,000 newtons. Goliath could have had one exceeding 50,000. This would pop the raptors in the Jurassic franchise like a balloon and cripple the largest of dinosaurs. The force of him ramming into something wouldn't be pleasant either. An almost 13-ton immovable object moving at 10 miles per hour would destroy a concrete building, and since Goliath was actually a real animal, he would have some predator superpowers of his own. His eyesight outclasses those of the animals in the franchise. He can see you whether you're still or moving, and the padding on his feet will allow him to go unnoticed wherever he goes. So no water glass shaking like the one in Jurassic Park. But speaking of superpowers, let's see what the Jurassic franchise theropods have to offer. I'll tell you right now, I won't debuff these animals in these movies just to fit into reality. They'll be keeping the same abilities they have in the trilogy. It's what makes them iconic. Durability wise, most of these guys have better durability than Goliath. I'm sorry, but it's true. Smaller Rexes showed healed over bite marks on their bones from other Rexes, and some even survived being punctured by Triceratops. But the movie theropods have survived so much more. The Spinosaurus, like I said, walks off Rex bites, took a hit to his sail from a plane, and then fell on said sail with his 10-ton body weight and not a dent was left in it. The Indominus also walked off a shockwave from an RPG and didn't even react when Owen shot her multiple times with a powerful rifle. Not to mention she was slammed into buildings and dragged around by the largest T-Rex in the movie, and was prepared to fight again. The Giga doesn't have much durability feats per se, but he's visibly the most armored of the group, and his descendants fought T-Rexes constantly like we see in the prologue. Speaking of T-Rexes, Rexy had been torn to shreds by the Indominus and beaten repeatedly, and somehow survived. But to this day, the one thing that surprises me is how she somehow did not die after Zeb stomped on her head with his full weight. 10 tons slamming into your head and not exploding like a watermelon is an achievement on its own. Sorry to say, but I don't think that's something Goliath could just walk off like Rexy. In terms of raw power, there's a lot, but I'll go over the biggest ones. 87 tore a plane to pieces and held a T-Rex in place like a father holding his bratty kid in the store, and then snapped its neck very easily. Then there was him holding a massive automatic industrial concrete door open for a few seconds with one arm. Doesn't seem impressive, but holding back many tons of force with a single arm is insane. Speaking of automatic doors, the Indominus did burst through a bigger one that was barely open and somehow wasn't crushed. She also with one hand somehow sent a truck airborne. Now this probably isn't the best feat given that some of the herbivores in this franchise are just a bit derpy, but she killed an entire herd of Apatosaurus and just like Zeb, is able to easily overpower Rexes once she gets a grip. Rexy may be the weakest of the set, well aside from Red, but she still is strong for her age. She held a helicopter in place until the ladder broke, and like all Rexes in this franchise, has a head no other carnivore can match. Buck was able to destroy a bus by swinging his noggin, and Rexy is bigger than him, so who knows the damage her head could do. Alright, there are some more stuff I can go over, but I'll go through some other stuff while we're putting Goliath in the situation. We're gonna put him on Sorna first to see how he would fare. Goliath would automatically be the biggest theropod in the island, so immediately he would have maximum respect from most creatures of this island. The raptors wouldn't be much of a threat. They may be curious as to why there's a shorter and more robust T-Rex in their space, but other than that curiosity, they won't fully confront him. He's an ambush killer, unlike the predators in Jurassic Park that always roar before they charge at something. So with his foot padding and raw power, the hadrosaurs and even armored herbivores of the island should be short work. Now on to what most of you were expecting. What would happen when Acid 87 finds him? Because let's be honest, 87 would get some sort of sign of his arrival and immediately track him down. He may be a bit confused as to why Goliath looks like that. It looks like the T-Rexes he usually sees, but this one's shorter and way more wide. As for Goliath, he'd be confused as to what he's looking at. He's never seen a Spinosaurus before and would be a bit cautious because 87 is taller than him. The Spinosaurus will get over this curiosity though and rush Goliath the same way he did to every other Rex. And unlike Goliath, he can actually run. Even with this buff, Goliath's better center of gravity and sure footing would keep him on his feet when the Spinosaurus runs into him. And even though he's not as agile as he was in his younger years, he could dodge the head-on impact. But this is the movies and these dinosaurs have good agility too. It's unlikely that Acid 87 would be able to hold Goliath in place long enough to snap his neck. And during this time, Goliath won't just stay still. He's tons heavier than 87 and during this process would grab one of the Spinosaurus legs and possibly cripple or damage it enough to where it has to let go. As for if Goliath gets a hold of 87's neck, it's going to be much different than the bite 87 took from Bull. The newtons needed to crush a bus is 22,000, which is what the trilogy scales the bite force of a Rex to. So these Rexes have a bite force between 20 and 30,000. Goliath has almost double that and his teeth are more blunt and meant for crushing bone. In this case, Goliath would 100% break something in the Spinosaurus neck and with the constant struggling would increase the damage. Overall in this fight, even though 87 is my favorite dinosaur in this franchise, Goliath wins, purely due to raw power. If it was Sue, which was around the same size of the Spinosaurus, 87 would win. I know size doesn't always dictate the outcome of a fight, but Goliath's power and agility combined with his experience would give him the edge. And no Rex fans, that doesn't mean he just destroys 87. He's certainly leaving with some injuries. Slashes around his body and bite marks all over his neck would be present. There is the rare chance that Goliath could run into Buck and Doe. Individually, Goliath could beat either one, but two of the franchise's Rexes against him is a losing battle. There's no way he can fend off two of these animals at once. Ordinarily, I would say that they would try to communicate with each other somehow, but Buck and Doe are a pair with a chick. So they could be defensive and try to take Goliath down if they see him as a threat to Junior. Either that or they could just give him a warning which he would likely take and back off. It's a real animal so it won't try to fight to the death like the ones in the movies unless absolutely necessary. With that said, they could just accept his presence and move on like they did to Rexy, although they would wonder why he looks so weird for a T-Rex in the universe. When it comes to Nublar, the prey selection would be the same, there's no difference, and there aren't as many raptors here as on Sorna. And even if they were, they still won't attack him. Nublar does have the biggest Rex in the franchise here though, and a psychopathic mix of one. When it comes to Rexy, I don't think they'd fight. She may be a crash out for the most part, but I think she would try to assess the situation, and Goliath would too. They probably wouldn't recognize each other as T-Rexes at first, but I think they would be able to come to that conclusion. He is a male and she's a female, so who knows what could happen. But realistically speaking, they would probably just tolerate each other's presence. Males of large land predators usually have massive territories that overlap those of females, but if it did somehow come down to a fight, even though it's unlikely, Goliath wins. And again, real Rex fans, don't start clapping. Even though Goliath has an almost 3-ton advantage, the fight wouldn't go nearly as easily in favor like what Goji Center portrayed. He isn't going to just keep dodging Rexy over and over and making her slam into trees like a Looney Tunes character. Both of them rely on their mouth as a main weapon, unlike the other megatheropods, so there's a chance both could exchange bites. On one hand, Cope has a much more powerful bite force, while Rexy has better durability. In this case though, repeated bites from Goliath would bypass that durability, and he is shorter and can tip Rexy over more easily, leaving her exposed. So he'd win, but would most definitely have some injuries he'd need to sleep off. As for the I-Rex, well, here's where it starts to get challenging. She is Rexy size or just barely lighter, but she has better intelligence, better weaponry, and more range. Goliath has more experience and battle intelligence, but Yindam could work her way around this in certain cases. She was able to topple Rexy over easily and start pushing her back with her claws, but Rexy is lighter and less stable than the Big G. It won't be as easy to topple Goliath, and if this Rex catches one of her arms, he will tear it off. With that said, the hybrid has possibly the most powerful arms in this trilogy, even more than the Seri. She flipped over a truck with just one hand, so using both, it is possible for her to slash Goliath on his hindquarters and weaken him, but in the process that leaves her lower body exposed to attack. To be honest guys, I think this fight could go either way. Look, if it was a normal 8 or 9 ton theropod against Goliath, then yes, he stomps. But as I keep saying, these theropods in the franchise are not real animals and have survived things and pulled off feats that would have killed anything else in real life of their size. Let me know who you guys think would win this one in the comments. Part of me is leaning towards Goliath because he's more sheer bulk and power, yet another side of me is leaning more towards the Indominus because of her abilities and weapons. There's also Red, but she's the smallest one here and has the worst durability of the bunch, so it's fair to say Goliath wouldn't have much of an issue dealing with her. As for Zeb, this is not a close one. Zeb has been stated capable of taking down multiple sauropods at once. I think it was Sauroposeidon or something, not sure. And he is also very maneuverable for his size and has armor on the top of his body. He is more of a brawler if anything, using his raw power and might to win fights with a bit of strategy sometimes. But if they're going band for band in terms of strength, Goliath takes it. Prolonged bites to even his neck would cripple him and lead to Zeb eventually dying. But that's the very worst case scenario. You know why? Because Zeb is the only carnivore in the entire franchise to behave like an actual animal. During the first meeting, they might have a small scuffle like the way Zeb did with Rexy when they first met, but that's it. After Zeb realizes he's outmatched, he'd walk away and Goliath would let him. Neither would want to risk injury from the other in a deathmatch. So that's basically it for this one, folks. Goliath should be okay for the most part in the Jurassic Park universe. He will definitely have some serious challenges with some of the big fellows, but majority he'd win. And aside from the Indominus and Spinosaurus, he likely won't even need to fight them in the first place. However, if this was Sue, she wouldn't get it as easy and most of these fights would probably kill her. Get mad at me all you want, but again, these are movie monsters that have performed feats no real animal can, so it's not going to be easy as some sources portray it. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one. Normally I'd say let me know what you guys think in the comments, but I already know a bunch of you are going to be raging down there, so what's the point? Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.